Hey y'all, this is TCA Gaming, and in this video I am mostly going to go over some of the terminology that you can see when it comes to Charizard. We're going to look at some of the cards in the past, as well as trying to understand what EX means on the new card. I've received a question on Instagram about it, like why is the EX lowercase on the new Mega Charizard X EX? And so we're going to kind of go through that because it's kind of cool to see the different ways that Charizard has changed, how it evolves, the pictures that have been used in the evolution box. At least to me it is. It's all really niche stuff, but you guys will get to see some cool cards along the way. I'm going to show you mostly high graded rare Charizards, and for some of you this information might be new, it might not be. This is one of those topics where I know that a lot of people know about it. However, it might only just be bits and pieces here and there. And so I'm going to wing most of this, but we'll talk about it, and hopefully you guys have some kind of interest. So let me get off of here, and we'll scoot that up. We'll kind of zoom in a little bit. There we go. So we're going to start off with the base set Charizard. Looking at it right here. So Charizard, it's not a basic Pokemon. He's an evolved form of Charmeleon. So you got Charmander, Charmeleon, Charizard. So on the original Charizard, you have this artwork for Charmeleon, evolves from Charmeleon. Pretty simple, not a basic Pokemon. When you get into a new name for Charizard in Team Rocket, we've got Dark Charizard. He no longer evolves from Charmeleon. He evolves from Dark Charmeleon. You can see it changed the evolution box to a Dark Charmeleon. And for that reason, you know, some people thought that this Dark Raichu was actually a misprint, like one of 3 errors on the card, because it actually has a light background versus the dark background, and it says put Raichu instead of Dark Raichu. So that is a legitimate like mix up. Maybe the light background is, and then the other one was this supersetted 83, which that was just it being kind of like a secret rare for the set. Now we move on to Shining Charizard. So there was another Charizard in between. We'll talk about that, but nothing new was really introduced there. Shining Charizard is our first basic Charizard. So like as you can see, there's no evolution box. It doesn't have to evolve. So you can see that because it has its name, Shining, maybe that means, hey, all Shining Charizards are going to be basic, or say Shiny Charizards. And so that was pretty cool coming out in Neo Destiny. I will make note with the Blaine's Charizard, it did have that original artwork for Charmeleon back here, and you can see they did change the background back to light, and it does say Blaine's Charmeleon as it should. However, when we move into Expedition, for whatever reason, when the Charizard was printed here, because this happened after Neo Destiny, so and definitely after Gym Challenge. You know, Gym Challenge, they moved back to the original Charmeleon in the evolution box. We now have the Dark Charmeleon artwork displayed in the evolution box for whatever reason. Not sure on the reason behind that, but nevertheless it's there, and you can see how the evolution box changed. Even in Skyridge, we see that it has the Dark Charmeleon in the background here, but Crystal Charizard does not mean that it's going to be basic. This is a different type, but the only basic Charizard that we've had so far is the Shining Charizard. All right, now we move into Generation 3, and now we have Charizard EX, and you can see they changed up the artwork that they use for the Charmeleon. It's actually, I believe this is the one from Here Comes, Team Rocket Returns. I was thinking Here Comes Team Rocket, but it's I believe it's the one from Team Rocket Returns. I'm not completely sure on that, but it's no longer the original. Kind of similar to the original, where you know we see that he's flexing, but he's more turned to the side there with his kind of turned sideways, but more of a front profile. The tail is not as high. And anyways, we have a new introduction of like a mechanic. We've got a lowercase EX, which you can see still evolves. So he's not basic like Shining Charizard. Now we have right here a Gold Star Charizard towards the end of Generation 3. Look, now it's a basic Pokemon again. So far we have 2 basic Pokemons that are Charizard, or basic cards for Charizard, and that's when it's Charizard Gold Star or Shining Charizard. In both cases, it's a Shiny Charizard. All right, so I'm going to move on from that one. We have Charizard G in Generation 4. Oh, look at this. This is actually a basic Charizard as well, and he's not shiny. He's the regular color. He's kind of got this little computer printed thing going on. So maybe the G means that it does not have to evolve from a Charmeleon. But now we move to Charizard G level X. You would think, okay, maybe this evolves from Charizard G, but no, again, it is, sorry. Right here, you've got put onto Charizard G. So even though we don't have like the evolution box thing going on right here, it evolves from this card. So you have to put down the Charizard G, which is a basic, and then you can put this on top of them, they're calling it a level up and level X. So you go from Charizard G to Charizard G level X. All right, now we're on to Generation 5. We're in Generation 5 and 6. This card is from Generation 6, but there was not a Charizard EX in Generation 5. However, if there had been, it would have been similar to this. We see right here we have Charizard Capital EX. So that's the difference between this and this guy right here. So we have a lowercase EX here, and then we have a capital EX here. Lowercase EX means that it's going to evolve. Capital EX means that it doesn't have to evolve. And like I said, this is Generation 6. However, this mechanic was introduced in Generation 5. Just for an example, like Mewtwo EX from Next Destinies. He's a basic Pokemon. And so if you have a Charizard Capital EX from Generation 5 or 6, you can put it directly onto your bench. However, something else new was introduced. We have the M Charizard EX. It's a mega evolved form of Charizard EX, and this is the first time that we actually see a Charizard in the evolution box, because even though we did have a Charizard that evolved before in Generation 4 with the G, it didn't have an evolution box. But now the evolution box has been brought back with Generation 5 and 6, and so we have this particular artwork of Charizard being thrown in there. So to have a Mega Charizard or an M Charizard EX, you have to evolve it from the basic Charizard EX. Now we move on to Generation 6, Sun and Moon era. We have Charizard GX, and we're going right back to that adaptation of the Charmeleon artwork that happened in Generation 3. So you can see Charizard GX comes directly from Charmeleon, not from Charizard. So it goes Charmander, Charmeleon, then Charizard GX. Unless it's a tag team. If you have a tag team, like this one, Reshiram and Charizard GX, it is now a basic Pokemon, which is really cool because it's like two evolved forms on a Pokemon. I believe this is where, you've got 3 prize cards, kind of like your Megas. So if you knock out one of these, it's worth 3 times as much as like a regular Charizard. And this mechanic was actually really good for Charizard because he hadn't been in a World Championship deck. But now he has. He was actually in 2 decks that were issued. Perfection, I think the other one was Firebox. So this was a really good card, very playable. And it may have even, I don't know about the meta, but I know that it was so playable at this time. Like, we didn't have a 2020 World Championship because of what happened with COVID, but in 2019 it dominated. And so it was really cool to see this. I was hoping that we'd actually have it again the next year. I'm not too sure of how the meta was, so I don't know if it would have happened. But in case it did, it would have made it one of very few cards that made it into World Championships, multiple years in a row, like Luxray Level X, as in Pokemon. Anyways, if you're talking about like cards that were trainers, that happens quite often. But Pokemon that are like the main attackers, it's very rare. Luxray Level X is one of the few that did it. You have other cards like Shaman or Tapu Lele that may have made it into multiple years, but they're not like the main attackers. It was for their abilities. All right, next up we have Charizard V. Now we're into Sword and Shield, and this is Generation 7. Check it out. We have a basic Charizard here. So Charizard V doesn't have to evolve from Charizard, Charmeleon, nothing like that. It just goes directly onto the bench. However, it can evolve, in fact, 2 different ways. So we see a new mechanic introduced, and we have V-Star or V-Max. So you can see right here, both of these evolve from Charizard V. It's not Charizard V, then V-Max, and V-Star. It's Charizard V going into V-Star or V-Max. And you can see right here, they use the same Charizard for the evolution box that we've seen on previous cards. So this was something new. And then after that, we have another introduction of a basic Charizard with the Radiance. So you can see Radiant Charizard, basic Pokemon again. He's kind of like a shiny Charizard, but they're calling him Radiant instead of Shining or Gold Star or something like that. So you can put this directly onto your bench. And this is the last set in Sword and Shield. And then now we move into, we have 151, which is Scarlet and Violet 3.5. So we are in Generation 8. Sword and Shield, Scarlet Violet's 8. It's hard for me to keep up with. Sun and Moon was 6. No, X and Y was 6. Sun and Moon was 7. Sword and Shield was 8. Scarlet and Violet was 9. I may have gotten some of those numbers mixed up before on the generation numbers, but that's the order. So this is Generation 9 with 151. And you can see now Charizard lowercase EX evolves from Charmeleon. Okay, so this is just like the original Charizard EX that come out in Fire Red Leaf Green from Generation 3. And now we've seen the introduction of Mega EXs, in which I do not have a picture of that, unfortunately, because I sent off the one that I had in my personal collection. We're actually going to go over this briefly here in a second. But this is what it looks like. So you have Mega Charizard X EX. So it's not M Charizard X, or it's not M Charizard EX, or, like we saw in Flashfire. But you can see it evolves directly from Charmeleon, and he's still using that Charmeleon evolution box image that was adopted back in Generation 3. So that's it. That kind of helps you explain it. So the specific question that I was given was, hey, why is this lowercase EX? And that's because it's not a basic Charizard. If it was a basic Charizard, or if I had the capital EX, then it should be a basic Charizard, or at least that's what we have seen. And so while these things may change over time, we can see that usually when they introduce a new mechanic, they do something slightly different, but that seems to be in line with what has happened over previous sets with evolution. So I thought that was some kind of cool information just to put out there. I realize it's very niche, but it may be able to help you understand why you have to evolve some Charizards and others you don't. All right, so before I end there, I'm going to jump over here. This is the Hobby Bins. They just updated the Mega Dream EX set. And so if you're wondering what the next high-class pack is going to be for Mega Dream, or for the Japanese side, you have Mega Dream EX. So that means high class means that if you take the pack, the box is going to have 10 packs in it, and every pack is going to have a hit. You're almost always guaranteed like some kind of special illustration rare or something like that, if it's similar to previous high class sets that we've seen. There's going to be a lot of secret rares that we're going to run into with this set. And only a few cards have been revealed so far, but we see some of these cards that have come from different sets. Usually it's a collaboration of some of the best cards of sets that have already released, but people are really excited about this guy right here. So we have the Mega Gengar EX, which has, it's obvious. I mean, this is a great artwork. It does not have a cameo, which I think would make the card a whole lot stronger, but this in itself, people are really excited about it. So I'm excited to see this it's going to be in that set. And of course, there's going to be other cards. There's going to be quite a few. If you go back here and read at the top, it talks about how there should be 50 plus secret rares in the lineup, which is going to make it a top tier set, just like almost all other high class sets are. But that is all that I have for the Mega Dream stuff, the high class set. I did want to mention before I go, I don't talk about Funko Pops at all, but I heard that they were having issues with money. It's like, for me, Funko Pops, they've got an easy play that is so obvious. I'm sure other people have talked about it many times, but it's like, why does Funko Pops not collaborate in a card way with everybody that they're already collaborating with? Like, think about if you have a Pikachu Funko Pop, which they have Funko Pops for lots of Pokemon, lots of Yu-Gi-Oh, lots of other TCG related items, but you put an exclusive card with those like specific Funko Pops. Like you have a Pikachu or a Squirtle or a Dark Magician or whatever. In fact, it doesn't even have to be an exclusive artwork, which I think that would be the better play. Why don't they collab in a way so that they just put a stamp on a card that's already been printed? Like, make it super easy. That would make people go crazy, I think, over those specific Funko Pops and drive up the demand. And then they would be able to sell other Funko Pops as well, especially if you're doing them like group lots or variety lots or something like that. But maybe I'm too narrow-sighted to completely understand that market, but I did want to mention that in case anybody out here is listening that is related to Funko Pops, and if you've already tried to do that and you weren't able to, it doesn't really make a lot of sense to me since you're able to get the license to print the figures themselves. But it'd be kind of cool if you were able to get some kind of card in those things too, because that would save it. In which I don't own any Funko Pops. The only I've got one. It was that damaged one that I did a short on that was I was consigning, but I've never really been interested because they don't have cards in them. But if they had a card that come with them, like how hard would that be to have an exclusive promo or something cool like that, to be collaborated with a collaboration that you're already doing with all these companies? Like, you have to be pretty good to get all of these different licenses to make Funko Pops in likeness of these images. So I would think that you'd be able to get the cards as well. But anyways, guys, hope you enjoyed the video. I realized it was me talking a lot really fast. Hopefully I didn't screw up too much of that information. Please correct me in the comments if I did screw up some of that stuff. And I appreciate the time that you've given me in watching these videos. Thanks.